Drive, written by Jonathan Dunne, narrated for you by the author. Dedication to Carmel. The boundaries which divide life from death are at best shadowy and vague. Who shall say where the one ends and where the other begins? Edgar Allan Poe. Author's note. This novel you're about to embark upon shares a connection with my previous novel, Rosie. In Rosie, a devious and malicious spirit escapes from the pits of hell during a demonic cult summoning and becomes an otherworldly fugitive in the very haunted and abandoned Ryan house in Oldcastle. This entity is only a bitter aftertaste, and the ghost's identity is not revealed, appearing to be merely a subject of collateral damage and no consequence to the outcome of Rosie. However, in this novel, Drive, that same manifestation becomes a more important character. You can read Drive without reading Rosie, and vice versa, as they are standalone novels, but if you're a reader who likes to know more about the characters, their lives and deaths beyond the page, then I suggest reading Rosie to learn more about the origins of the terrorizing spirit that trawls the beams and ceilings of the spacious Ryan household and sits by the grubby window waiting to be summoned and invited outside. Prologue. The blackest grimoire. Her fingers stroked the ingredients laid out before her on the table, relishing how the neat row of items feels to the touch, delighting in how the cold, sharp edge of the knife contrasts with the tickling brush of the sage. Shapes and textures have become more prominent, while colour drained from her world long ago. She lights the herb and chants lost words, weaving back and forth with every hushed syllable. Her shadow dances and shimmers on the walls of the gloomy basement as the candle flame sputters. Electricity was never intended to illuminate this incantation. This malediction was written by candlelight 500 years ago and meant to be carried out by the living light of the special homemade candle. The aromatic, woodsy scent of smouldering sage rises in her nostrils. It is strange to think she has waited a lifetime for this moment. Now time is of the essence, and the essence of time has already gone into this dark concoction she has been brewing during the hours when the house sleeps and a monster creeps. Nobody would ever understand her reason. This is something that has been bubbling in her cauldron for years, and she justifies her actions as she creates the perfect storm in a fine bonnet china teacup of burning sage. Well, there is one person who understands her reasoning, and she too has had her whole life to ponder this. But what that one person might not understand is why she was concocting a second curse, when they had already planned everything out with meticulous precision. She thinks about a tendril of smoke finding its way through the keyhole to the nostrils of the sleeping inhabitant next door. After all, burning sage means only one thing in this household. How would she explain herself? She would think of something to say if it came to that. Anyway, there isn't time now. Before her on the table lays an ancient opened book, a banned tome. She has parted these very pages so many times that the two dog-eared folios have come away from the cracked spine, left hanging on spindly threads. Rather than reading the strange symbols and words, she gently caresses the vellum pages. She doesn't need to read them, because she memorized them long ago. It is the last volume of its kind, and she paid a pretty penny for it. Oh, yes, she did. Some would say she paid with her life. Strange to think she bought this book once upon a time to bring a loved one back from the dead. Oh, how the times have changed. Or have they? Not really. She is still summoning a spirit, just not the spirit she intended to summon. Thinking about the twisted version of herself she has become, she carries out the next step of the summoning. She scoops out the finely chopped hairs and sprinkles them into the glowing bone china teacup. The blonde hair hisses and sizzles in the sage, leaving a sulphurous stench to permeate the room. Spitting into the little smoking pile, she makes a paste between her thumb and forefinger. With a broken stick of hamamelis growing in the back garden, she stirs the mixture with the cracked end, allowing the heart of the stick and its sap to mix with the brew. And now to the next step. The step she has been fearing. She never liked pain. Who does? And though she has been living with it, she never got used to the pain. She feels for the knife, its blade glinting in the candlelight. With a wince, she drags a sharp cutting edge across her left palm, so sharp that she can barely feel it as it cuts through her epidermis like razor grass. She tightens her fist until droplets of blood flow freely from her clenched hand and into the cooling, pasty ash. Looming over the homemade potion, she waits for the last ingredient to be added. The one ingredient not on the table before her. Tears. Her tears are never far away, and a single salty tear falls from her left cheek into the ashes, fueling the potency of the mixture. She daubs the ashen blend onto her lips, then her fingers find the photograph on the table next to the heavy old book, and she draws it to her lips, kissing the smiling occupant looking out from the picture, offering the kiss of death. She lays down the snapshot with the smudged grey lip print, then scoops out more of the mixture and smears it across her own face at an angle from right to left, starting above her right eye socket, crossing down over her nose, lips and chin to below her left earlobe with her 3 middle fingers. Once the pasty streaks reach the point below her left ear, she continues down the left-hand side of her throat and rib cage, then stops over her heart, which might or might not be beating. She isn't sure these days. She whispers a chant to her reflection in the large mirror on the wall. In the light, I am nobody. In the dark, I am somebody. Quenching the candles, she is left alone in the darkness. She no longer sees because the darkness consumed her long ago. A smile cracks on her lips, and a devilish grin comes back at her from the darkness, though she doesn't see it. 1. Kelly's dead. Hayes, please tell me that's not what I think it is. Just the odd look on my friend's face tells me it is exactly what I think it is. Dusk has bruised into the night on this freezing, foggy Christmas Eve. I'm in denial about Kelly's death and have been since she was taken from us a few weeks ago under highly unusual circumstances. The wise words of the local police sergeant, Big Tom Daly. At least I have been in denial until tonight. I refuse to believe Kelly, Kells to you and me, was gone until I've just seen Hayes to you and me, standing by Billy Mac's wrecking yard chain link fence with the, and this is the part I'm struggling with right now. I can't even bring myself to tell you what she has brought with her tonight, and I'm starting to wonder what she's got in her backpack too. What Hazel Brennan is holding in her cold hands brings a chill to my bones. I don't want to remember my best friend this way because it turns Kells and her memory into something that makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end, and that's not right. It turns her into a thing, but it brings more than that. It brings this horror home to me. How Kelly Monroe never got home that night. I realize now that I need to face the horror for closure, but not in this way, please. The last 3.5 weeks have just been a bad dream, and we were waiting for Kells to walk back into our lives. It was all just one big mistake, that's all. Whoa, Hayes, where did you get that? I've never seen one in real life, exclaims Shane Maguire. Just Shane, to you and me, as he fishes for dog biscuits in his pockets. I giggle at his reaction. I've known Shane all my life, but he has only come to our group recently, not long before Kells left the group. But I have begun to see him in a new light, and that started before Kelly was stolen from us. How could I possibly have affectionate feelings for this lovable moron who says everything's going tits up all the time? Maybe it's just that, because he's a lovable moron. Shane's gawping at the rectangular object Hayes has just produced from beneath her woolly parka. I've known him a lot longer than Hayes, and there's something not sitting right with me. Call it gut instinct. Seeing his face through the fog and the orange glow coming from the streetlight above us is giving me the heebie-jeebies. It's as if he's somebody who merely resembles Shane trying to fool us. I'm paranoid since I saw that thing in Hazel's hand. That object has soured the atmosphere. I feel strange tonight, but Kells feels stranger to me on this silent stretch of road called South Quay on the outskirts of Oldcastle. The streetlight above us is the first streetlight and marks the limit where the town begins. But I realise now that streetlight also marks where Oldcastle ends, and tonight it feels like Oldcastle is ending. Just beyond that light is the New Line Road and the darkness of the countryside. It was on the New Line where my dear Kells lost her life to a monster who should have never lived, and I mean monster. I don't want to talk about it, but I suppose I should. I will say for now that whatever she met on this secluded stretch of road left her for dead, and left behind the strangest signs the state pathologist's office has ever seen. It was only a few weeks ago when the three of us were here with her, laughing our heads off at nothing, unaware of how sweet life was and how sour it was to become. In tense silence, we peer through the chain links. There, parked amongst the shadows thrown by the stacks of dead cars, is the black Audi Quattro. Silence fills the air as we contemplate the horror not even the dense fog can mask. With our eyes on the old black crock, Shane comments, "Do you think the police consider the Monroe family's feelings when they turn the kill car over to the local wrecking yard?" The internet is calling the Audi the kill car. Big Tom has really put his clumsy foot in it this time. He should have known things were going to go tits up when Kelly's murder scene is parked in the local scrapyard. Sorry, but they're fucking useless. But they're not so useless at handing out parking tickets. The Monroes are going through enough turmoil as it is, and it's Christmas. Hazel adds, "It's not Christmas at the Monroes' place. Every year they deck their house out in Christmas lights and hang a Christmas wreath on their front door. This year they have a funeral wreath on their front door." We let that sink in. Shane says, "I couldn't be at home watching everyone in the festive spirit, drinking and stuffing themselves while Kelly is here on her own." I don't know why, but I'm getting the impression that this little back and forth between my two friends is for my benefit. I think I know where this is going, but I refuse to believe it. You might not know Hayes very well, but I know when she's up to something. She gets all weird, acting all shifty, like when she cancels our meetings at her place. Normally, her old Gran is the reason. Gran is tired. She's gone for a lie down. Or maybe Gran isn't feeling well, and I need to look after her. We normally meet at my place or in the town square. I can count on one hand the number of times I have been at Hayes's house. I feel sorry for her, stuck with her old Gran who became her legal guardian after the car crash took her parents. I think she was only 3 or 4 years old when that happened. I know she's grateful to the old woman for everything, but sometimes I can't help but worry for Hazel in that gloomy, silent house, all alone with her blind grandmother. In a way, she's kind of trapped there because she owes her granny everything and will take care of her no matter what the circumstances. Sometimes I just wish she would put herself first. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Hazel's leading up to the reason why she brought that ridiculous thing here tonight. It's all part of her conniving little plan. Guys, everybody is thinking about her. Everybody is hurting, but nobody wants to show it. I don't think Kelly is here, and she's not on her own. I speak my mind. You don't know that, Hayes points out. You're right, I don't, but I knew Kelly better than anyone, and I know this isn't her style. I'm not saying it's her style. What girl likes to hang out in a wrecking yard on her own at night? She might not have a choice, Gracie. You ever think about that? Hazel, I summon every fibre of my being to not verbally attack her. She can be so stubbornly dumb. She has always had an eccentric streak in her. I think it comes from hanging around her ancient Gran because she's away with the fairies, as we like to say down in these parts. That means she's a little loopy. Hazel adds, I saw Kelly's mom in town yesterday. She looked like a ghost. Subliminal messages, perhaps. That's how Hazel likes to play. Shane says, and what about all those weirdos coming to see this car? Weirdos like us, you mean? I attempt a smile. The so-called kill car has become a source of dark tourism. And not only in Oldcastle, people are coming from all over to catch a glimpse of the tomb on wheels before it goes to the car crusher. That's morbid. They didn't even know Kelly. 3 young people bolted when they saw us approaching tonight. They were here, drinking and looking at the car through the fence. They even left their half-empty bottle of Jägermeister after them. It was too foggy to make out any faces, and they probably didn't know who we were either. The police have made it clear that no loitering around the wrecking yard is tolerated. Funny, because they created the problem. My father met Billy Mack down at the Hound on Saturday night, says Shane before putting on a thick Billy Mack accent. Sick and twisted bastards are coming from all over the country to see the car. His imitation puts a smile on my face. He told my old man he was going to charge the freaks to sit into the car and cash in on the dark tourism. He shakes his head. The biggest freak at the Hound is Billy Mack, and he doesn't even know it. The Hound is the busiest pub in town. It's the same pub where the police sergeant Big Tom Daly drinks Guinness and plays the banjo with his bluegrass band, the Dickie Tickers. Yes, you heard me right, the Dickie Tickers. And speaking of ghosts, mentions Hazel, what if Kelly is still in there? I knew it. Shut up, Hayes, I fire back. But it's too late. For a ghastly moment I catch a fleeting glance of Kelly Monroe's pale face peering out at me from behind that grubby windscreen. I look away. When I look back, she's gone. But Hazel is too overcome with emotion to shut up. With a quaver in her voice, she whimpers, Kells must have felt so alone. None of us were there to help her. I do everything in my power to keep my hands in my pockets, because if they leave my jacket, I'm going to sock her one right in the jaw. Hayes knows she just crossed the line. She knows this because of what went down that night. My guilt is enough. I don't need anyone else's blame. Stop! Just stop! Barely keeping it together, my right fist is ready to dislocate her jaw if she says one more Gracie, whether you like it or not, her spirit is trapped in that car. It comes like a gagging reflex as I smack her across the face. Gracie! Shane yells, dropping his dog biscuits in shock. What are you doing? Hayes just stares at me until her right cheek begins to flush and tears come to her eyes, but she defiantly holds in her sobs. Hayes, we all saw her getting into that car because we all thought, and Kelly thought, it was her taxi. Drop it! I snap. With a tremor in his voice, Shane suggests, I'm not sure we should be here, guys. It's starting to feel weird. He flashes a sideward glance at Hayes, and I'm not sure what to read in that glimpse. Hazel needs to hear things twice to understand, Shane. You know that. Hazel's heart's in the right place, but she doesn't possess filters like normal people. I think you've been hanging around your gran for too long. She's a blind old woman who has nobody else. I apologize to Hazel. I just don't feel comfortable with that thing you brought tonight. They're going to destroy the car. We came here to say our goodbyes. Let's start the healing process. Shane turns to Hazel. Maybe Gracie's right. He pauses before adding, closure. It's not that simple, says Hayes. You cannot just close Kelly. And for once I kind of agree with Hazel. Hayes, we're not making Kells disappear. She's already gone. Hearing myself say those words brings a fresh wave of salty tears. We huddled together, not for warmth on this freezing December night, but for the fear and loneliness that lingers in the air with our fogging breaths. Shane speaks in hushed tones. It gives me the creeps to think that that old banger was the last place where Kells was alive, and the first place where she was found dead. It really is her tomb. Not you too, Shane. Jesus, can we just please be upbeat about this? Think of the good times. Kelly wouldn't want this doom and gloom. She was the life and soul of the party. If Kelly had her way, we would be dancing tonight. It's a macabre notion to think the black car in the shadows in that lonely wrecking yard is the closest thing to our deceased friend right now. Hayes, how could you even dream of bringing that thing here? It's creepy. I mean, who does Hazel think she is? She didn't know Kelly like I did. It was always just Kells and me. And then along comes Hazel. We were inseparable. Kells was the sister I never had. Hazel's gran says it's because we're both of the star sign Aquarius and we celebrate our birthdays on Valentine's Day. According to Hazel's grandmother, we are connected on the interstellar spider web. Is it any wonder Hazel has turned out the way she has? Hazel's gran is probably behind that frightening object in her granddaughter's hands, too. What I find more upsetting is that Hazel has no qualms about using it. It's like she feels nothing towards Kelly, but me. Strangely, I'm closer to Kells in death than I had ever been in life. That sounds weird, right? Kells has been following me around since her death. She's living inside my head, and I pull her from my memory bank whenever and wherever I please. Sometimes I look at my shadow and see Kelly's silhouette with her bouncing trademark ponytail, but I will never remember her hair like it was. The night we found her in the car took care of that. I haven't told you because I don't like talking about it, but it was my mother and I who found Kells under those highly unusual circumstances Big Tom Daly referred to. Her hair. I still have nightmares about it. I don't know why that has affected me more than seeing her frozen, petrified face in the back seat of the same car I'm looking at right now. I turn to Hayes. You've just turned Kells into a... Hazel interrupts. Into a what, Gracie? My eyes creep to that rectangular object in her right hand. That thing you brought is making a mockery of Kelly. Into a what, Gracie? Into a ghost, I finish. Maybe Gracie's right, says Shane, and flashes a sheepish glance over his shoulder at the New Line Road swallowed in the darkness. Gran says that, Hayes, I don't care what your Gran says. I bet she reads tea leaves too. Sometimes people need to know where to draw the line. We don't need a stupid Ouija board to say goodbye. There, I've said it. Hazel has brought a Ouija board here tonight. Am I surprised? No. I'm sorry, Hazel cries. I just wanted her to hear our goodbye. I want her to know that she's not forgotten. I wanted to wish her a happy Christmas. I melt inside. Me too, Hayes, but this isn't the way. Sometimes I need to sit my friend down and tell her what's right from wrong, because she never had a mom to tell her that. Hazel just stands there, subdued and freezing, with her flashing antler hairband and scarlet lipstick. We may be wearing Christmassy garb, but it doesn't feel Christmassy, and no amount of garish lipstick can cover the melancholy hanging over Oldcastle. Tears come to my eyes, and I reach for Hazel. Our flashing antlers clash and get tangled up. It might have been funny under different circumstances. Now Shane comes to hug us. The grieving ebbs from me, and I bawl into Shane's chest as the dam gates swing wide and the tidal wave of grief carries me away. Please, do it for me, Hazel pleads. If I don't do this now, I'll always regret it. Gran says Kelly's life was stolen from her. She didn't give up her life, which is normally what happens, and that's why ghosts are happy to cross over. She doesn't know her life was stolen. She doesn't know she's dead. We need to tell her. Gran says Kelly's still hanging around, Gracie. Shane asks, what, she's just like hanging around? Nothing better to do, right? I don't expect you to understand. Hazel turns from Shane to me. Please. And you still see Kel's forlorn face looking at you from the kill car in the shadows. Hazel planted that image and now you can't unsee it. I'll do it, I declare. Hazel lets out a triumphant, yes, I knew you would see sense. Shane swivels around to look at me. You will? And then I clock yet another sly look at Hayes. I bet you anything they're in on this together. What if her Gran's right, Shane? I've just realized this is something I want to do. No, this is something I've got to do before they send the car to the crusher. Kells didn't have time to say goodbye. This will be our goodbye to her. A coy smile spreads across my face. Okay, so tell the truth. About what? Hazel looks sheepishly at Shane and he pretends nothing's going on. What do you mean, Gracie? You two already planned this. Shane's about to deny it when Hazel breaks. Look, yes, you're right, but I only told him because I wanted him to persuade you that it's a good idea. She throws eye daggers Shane's way. Not that Shane did much persuading. You're useless. A Ouija board, really? I only went along with it because I didn't think Gracie would go along with it. It's called an oracle, Hayes back answers. It's a Ouija board, snaps Shane. You're fooling nobody. Hayes is about to answer back when we hear the deep-chested growl before the sleek, hulking Rottweiler gallops out of the shadows and launches itself at the fence, all saliva and snapping teeth. The enormous dog props up on his muscular hind legs while his front paws clamber on the fence. When Buddy pulled that heart-stopping act the first night over a year ago, we fell back from the fence, horrified and exhilarated. But over the weeks and months, the canine got used to us. And now it's less about the fierce guard dog piece of theatre and more about the tasty dog biscuits he expects from Shane's coat pocket. Shane passes the dog biscuits to the beast through the chain links. Buddy sticks his wet, curling tongue through the fence and slobbers over Shane's fingers. Hazel sticks her hand into her left pocket and pulls out a triangular object with a large hole in the middle of it. This is a planchette. Kells can move this and speak to us through the letters and numbers she points to. You see, says Shane, being careful that Buddy doesn't confuse his fingers for the dog biscuits. There's another problem I have with this. Why do the living assume the dead know how to work these things? Does everyone need to complete a Ouija board course once they die? Despite circumstances, I find myself smiling. It's not what he says, but how he says it. He's right, though, Hayes. This is too creepy. How is Kells going to know what to do? You saw her with her phone, right? She was always asking us how to get into settings. No sooner have I said it when a pang of sadness stabs me. Just then, it was as if Kelly was standing right next to me with her phone, asking me that question. Those who have crossed over just know how to use a planchette. Hazel's sobering words give me pause for thought. Kelly has already been dehumanized. Shane waves his arms in protest. I've changed my mind. I'm not going anywhere near one of those things. They fuck with your mind. They drive you insane. There are people out at the hillside because they messed around with a Ouija board. Shane's referring to the psychiatric hospital out on the coast road. It has become a place of urban legend in Oldcastle. So many strange stories have come out of that place, and the rumours are that the people working there are crazier than the patients. I wouldn't mind working as a psychologist there someday. Hayes considers me. Ready? We've nothing to lose. In the street light's illumination, I see the excitement and relish on our friend's face, her watery eyes wide with excitement. There's something about we've nothing to lose that doesn't sit right with me, but I'm not sure why. Suddenly overcome with emotion, I hide my face in my hands as the tears flow down my cheeks. They taste warm and salty on my lips. As my friends come to hold me, I recall that fateful night in a series of strobing flash images when Kells got into that taxi. Only it wasn't a taxi. I didn't get to say goodbye to her in life, so maybe I can say goodbye to her in death. Tell her I'm sorry for letting her down that night. That night. 2. That night. A strange phenomenon happened to our gang. Before Kelly was taken from us, we were just another group of college kids in Oldcastle. But following Kelly's premature death, we've become the ultimate group. Everyone our age wants to be part of us. Now we are dangerous and cool. The 4th member of our troupe will live forever, and we are the gang that hangs with ghosts. It doesn't get any cooler than that. At least, that's how our peers see us. They never knew Kells. They wouldn't think any of this was so cool if they had known my best friend. Now they know her as a ghost, and I cannot think of anything sadder. Hazel wants to contact Kelly's ghost, but in a way, she has already become a ghost because everybody in town knows the 3 of us, and it's strange to see us without Kelly. She's the ghostly memory lingering behind the hangers-on. Her ghost is the product of the locals' imagination because all they can see is Kells when they see us without actually seeing her. Kelly Monroe is the phantom itch on the amputated limb. Before any of that happened, I have to tell you about that night, December 1st. You must know that something horrible happened, but beautiful things happened too. We met up in Oldcastle's town square as we usually do at the weekend, kicking off on Friday night when Kells, Shane and I were back from university. Hazel doesn't appear to want to do anything with her life except be a full-time caregiver for her gran. We had planned to go to Whispers, the best in the West nightclub, but we decided to ditch the nightclub that always smells of puke and bought a few bottles of cider instead. We took ourselves to the riverbank, which isn't very far from the wrecking yard. We were down by the river, swapping stories by the light of the moon, listening to the gentle lap of the river, marvelling in the silence and how we could talk to each other rather than roar our heads off at the disco and still only half understand each other. Maybe we're just getting older, more mature, is what I prefer to think. We played the much-loved Bee Gees number, You Should Be Dancing. With Shane and Hazel for an audience, Kells and I performed what I believe was our best dance routine yet. It was to be our last dance together, and we had saved the best for last. And that was the same night I caught a glimpse of something in Hazel's face I had never seen before, while Kells and I skipped the light fandango along the riverbank. She was staring at Kelly with poison in her face, like she was inhaling a sour reek. Why? Not sure. Who knows what goes on in that strange land of Hazel's mindscape? But it was also the night I noticed how Shane Maguire looked at me differently while I danced, and that warmed me up inside. After our impromptu shake-a-leg, I jokingly dared Hazel to swim in the river. Before any of us knew what was happening, she was laying her bottle on the ground and stripping down to her bra and knickers, cue the face-palming emoji, and wading out into the freezing murky waters of the Yarra. That was when I felt the first flutter of nerves that night. It wasn't until she was out in the deepest trench in the river that I called her back. "It was a joke, Hayes. Jesus!" "You dared me," she called back. "Yes," I answered back. "But you could have said no." All that was visible was her pale face above the water as Yarra eddied around her. That was another one of those flashing strobe moments I recall. I just couldn't understand Hazel's motives for jumping into the bitterly cold water so readily. She had a point to prove, but I still don't know what the point was. "Watch out for the river mare," Kelly chuckled. There isn't a soul in town who hasn't heard of the vengeful ghost that haunts the Yarra's icy currents. They say it lives in Crazy Daisy Cave at the base of Magrick Mountain in the National Park and floats down in the mountain tributaries as far as Oldcastle during the yearly floods. A busload of school kids came in contact with something trawling the waters up there in the cave. Half of them came back alive, and those who made it back were never the same. I don't believe in that stuff, but I do believe they saw something. People see all kinds of strange things in extremely stressful situations. It's called mass hysteria. You'd be surprised what kind of ghosts the panic-stricken mind and the mentally ill can conjure up. I'm studying for a master's degree in clinical psychology, so I like to think I know what I'm talking about. What about the incident out at the Prendergast farmhouse as a case in point? Have you heard about the Green family? A mother and her 3 daughters. They moved into that huge empty house with a secret, and the mother went crazy. But she was crazy before they ever got to the old farmhouse. She just didn't know it yet. That was a trigger, and what she did was, well, you couldn't make it up, as the saying goes. Maybe we can sit down some evening, and I can tell you all about it. "Hayes!" I call out to her. "Come out of the river. You've proved your point." Like an obedient dog, she did as I asked. Come to think of it, she jumped into the river like an obedient dog too. I don't know what's got into her lately. She has always had a wild streak, but over the last few months, she has been irritable and looks as if she is suffering from sleep deprivation with those bruised bags under her eyes and pasty complexion. Teeth chattering, Hazel waded out of the river and used her clothes to dry herself off, which gave us another bout of laughter. But looking back now, maybe it wasn't what was in the Yarra, but what was outside it, watching us from beyond one of the ash trees growing along the riverbank. Our favourite spot is quite a secluded one, and anyone could have been lurking in the bushes and we would be none the wiser. A mist rose from the river that night, and we were surrounded by that thick ghostly veil, making it easier for someone to disguise themselves in the night. I have been wondering about that. I'm almost certain somebody was lurking around and followed us back to town. Did Kelly's killer just happen to see her in the town square later that night? Or was there somebody stalking her? She never mentioned anything, and we spoke about everything, and I mean everything. It was after midnight when we left the riverside. I remember walking in the fog back to town, our phone lights leading the way from the dark pathway to the brighter stretch of road along South Quay. I looked over my shoulder at several points, fully sure I could hear footsteps behind me in the fog, but every time I turned around, those footsteps became our own. Sometimes I thought I heard footsteps that didn't belong to any of us. I haven't said any of this because it is all just hearsay and possibly a product of my overactive imagination. When we got back to town, Kelly called the local taxi rank and ordered a taxi, telling the dispatcher she would be waiting in the town square. Kells lived a little further out of town than we do, so she opts for a taxi if her parents aren't available to collect her. The rest of us live in roughly the same area and within walking distance of each other's houses. We all have cars to get us from A to B, but not when we're out. Hazel doesn't have a car. She and her gran use public transport. We sat on one of those cold iron benches across from Wilma's cafe while we waited for Kel's taxi. We were having a laugh when Hazel announced, "Kelly, your taxi," as a black car circled the square and parked up in front of us. We were still tipsy, but Kells must have been quite drunk because I distinctly remember her zigzagging as she made her way to the vehicle. She got in and closed the door behind her. The taxi that was never really a taxi pulled away. That was the last time we saw Kelly Monroe. "Did you see that?" Shane asked as the taxi drove slowly around the square once and took a right down Bridge Street. "No, what?" I hadn't noticed anything except the car didn't look like your average taxi. It was really old. The taxi didn't have its lights on. What? It drove off in complete darkness. And that was when I felt the first nervous flutter as my instinct told me something was wrong. We got up to leave, but Hazel had gone all strange on us. Her eyes were fixed on the gap left in the taxi's wake. "Haze, what's wrong?" I asked her, but she just looked through me and shook her head slowly. I think we all sensed something had just gone wrong right in front of our eyes. I received the first strange text from Kells when I stepped through the front door of my house about 10 minutes later. "There's something wrong." I flushed red the moment I read that text. It was as if I had been waiting for the message. "What do you mean?" "The driver just took a different route. I'm on the New Line Road. Why? I keep asking him, but he won't answer me. He keeps muttering something under his breath, something about light and dark. WTF? Gracie, I can't see his face. Her text stopped there and my heart stopped with it. "What's wrong, Kells?" More heart-stopping seconds went by before the final message. "Help!" That 4-letter word sobered me up fast. For a second I figured Kelly and the others were playing a practical joke on me. It wouldn't be the first time Kells pulled a fast one. I don't know if I've already told you, but Kelly was the joker in the pack. The phone fell out of my hand onto the hallway floor when a live location map popped up on my WhatsApp screen. Dad appeared from the bedroom on the right down the hallway. "Gracie, you okay?" "Yeah, Dad. Go back to bed. Drop my phone." He stood there for a moment before going back inside. With jittering hands, I clicked on the live location and watched Kelly's radiant face profile bomb along the New Line Road, going in the opposite direction to her house. Her cheerful avatar was travelling far too fast for those dark, winding country roads, and seeing her happy picture move along those roadways gave me the chills. Her happy-go-lucky photo wasn't matching her horrifying texts and only served to add surreal confusion to a situation that was quickly unravelling. I texted again. "Not funny, Kay. We spoke about this before. I don't like when you play games." Sad face emoji. But when I thought this couldn't get any worse, Kelly sent me a voice message. Gracie, help me. A single panicked shriek lit up my phone before Kelly went quiet. And that was the last I heard from my best friend. Her last word was a short, sharp scream. I was still hanging on to the thread that it was a practical joke. What kind of jokes are practical anyway? But something that affected me even more now was seeing how her avatar was no longer moving on the map. It had stopped the moment she screamed. I needed to go out there and find her. No sooner had I picked up my car key than I realized I had been drinking, and I didn't want to make the situation any worse. I had no choice but to wake my parents, and the last thing I wanted to do was panic them. I went and knocked on their bedroom door. "Come in," my dad whispered. I popped my head into the bedroom and told my father everything, slowly and intelligibly. But my heart was racing. It was difficult to keep my voice to a whisper to not wake Mom. Panicking one of them was enough. I showed him my phone and saw his face turn ashen pale in the luminescence of my screen. I hope to never see that face ever again. Dad was already out of bed and pulling his trousers and jumper on over his pajamas. Within minutes we were reversing out of the driveway in our Volkswagen Passat and following Kelly's GPS coordinates from her last given live location. Those coordinates took us down South Quay where we already were tonight, then out the New Line Road. We rocketed by the wrecking yard, never knowing that lonely, dirty old place would be forever linked with Kells. As we travelled, I sent unanswered messages to my best friend, and I had to stick my head out the window for fresh air because I thought I was going to pass out. At some point, we left the main road and made a diversion down a secondary road, with a strip of green grass snaking along its middle. As we made our way down this old road, I saw the doubt grow on my father's face behind the wheel. 5 minutes later, we were lost down some country road while dread simmered in me. Dad braked hard and we skidded to a stop. "Give me the phone, Gracie." My father knows this area like the back of his hand. It's a popular hiking area and he used to come here every weekend before he hurt his back. He expanded the map and checked the route ahead. Then I saw the old familiarity come back to his face. It was like turning on a light. "That's on the bridge." My father handed me the phone, spun a tight U-turn and screeched off in the way we had just come. I had no idea which bridge he was referring to. We barreled along the country road. I had never seen my father drive so fast, and very quickly I'd forgotten about Kel's life and was more concerned for my own. My father roared, "Call the police, Gracie!" He was at his wits' end now and driving erratically. "Slow down, Dad!" But he couldn't slow down. Staring through the windscreen with wide eyes, adrenaline had got the better of him, and adrenaline was in the driving seat now. "What's the number?" 112, Gracie, you should know that, Jesus! I dialed the 3 numbers, and just as an operator picked up, Dad told me to hang up. As we crested the brow of the hill, swirling blue lights accosted our eyes. My father took his foot off the accelerator. As the pedal rose, my insides dropped as we came upon a squad car parked up by Dunganville Bridge. 2 uniformed police, a woman and a man, were getting out of the car. I recognised it as the same car we'd seen circle the town square before pulling up in front of Kelly. I know zilch about cars, and I normally wouldn't have recognised the vehicle, only it was a vintage model, older than I am. As we drew closer, I was able to read the make of the car on the back. Audi Quattro. It looked as if the police had just casually come upon the parked car. They were checking out the vehicle with their flashlights. But I noticed how they kept their distance, and uneasy glances passed between them. We slowed down to a crawl. In our dipped headlights, we could make out the silhouette of a person sitting in the back seat. A woman's head and shoulders were visible. As we approached the scene, I cringed at seeing how that silhouette didn't move. It was Kelly's head. I could see her ponytail. I just didn't want to see it because something didn't look right with it. Maybe her head was drooping to the side like that because she was asleep. "Dad?" was all I could muster, which was more than my father could say. In a strange out-of-body moment, I glimpsed at my phone screen, half expecting to see that black Audi Quattro moving along the country roads, and this happened to be one just like it. We clicked our doors open, and we were immediately herded back into the car by the police. My dad calls. "We think we know that girl." "Okay," said the policewoman, "but stay in the car, please." She was panicking. That much was clear. Whatever she'd seen in that car was not normal. Sickness roiled in my stomach before I screamed, "It's Kells! That's my best friend! That's Kelly Monroe!" The policeman shone his flashlight in our direction and appeared to speak, but bottled up. The policewoman stepped in and said in a friendly tone, "Please, turn around and go the other way. We need to process the scene." As she said this, she cordoned off the bridge with police tape. "I cannot confirm it is Kelly Monroe until everything is processed and made public." But that was her way of confirming to me it was Kells in that car. I just knew it by the way she was looking at me, telling me it was my closest friend without officially telling me. I thought I was going to puke. Not able to take it anymore, I ran from Dad's car while he yelled at me to get back in, but I saw my best friend and she needed my help, surrounded there by strangers. They don't know her. And that was the moment I felt my best friend slip away and become a stranger to me. I cried as I ran to her. The police went to block me, but I had gotten close enough to the car, and what I saw sapped everything from me. Something died inside just then. My knees buckled, and I fell onto the wet road and screamed lost words to the heavens. My father picked me up and hugged me before leading me back to the Volkswagen, heartbroken, utterly devastated, and strangely lost. I had already seen too much, and that was a scene I needed to process. My father turned the car around and we drove away. I yelled at him to stop driving. "Kelly's back there," I cried in a choking sob. "She's all alone." Deep down, I knew only a part of Kelly was in that car, but I still felt she needed a friend. I was abandoning her for a second time. She'd already asked me for help in her text messages, and I wasn't there. Dad pulled up on the side of the road and took my hands in his. Very gravely, he looked at me in the eyes and said, "Gracie, I'm so sorry. I don't understand what has happened here tonight, but she's in the right hands now. We have to accept and let them find out what happened to Kelly. You need to let her go." "Let her go? Let her go? We were dancing to the Bee Gees just a few hours ago."